Wednesday, May 19th, 2021, Planning and Zoning Committee to order. It's 6 o'clock. Everyone's in attendance besides the exception of Ms. Burton. We heard she's coming or coming later. Well, she's planning to attend. So we have a quorum. The first part is sort of new for the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're going to go ahead and open a general public forum and invite citizens to speak on any matter they'd like to, with the exception of the agenda items tonight. So it's exception of the agenda items. So anything else you'd like to talk about tonight to the commission. And we hope that you limit to 3 minutes, and that will go for the agenda items as well. So if any of the citizens here want to go ahead and chat right now for 3 minutes, we'll go ahead and open the public forum. Don't feel like you need to chat if you have nothing to say. If you're not chatty tonight, then I'm sure you'll have another chance. Seeing that no one wants to chat, go ahead and close the public forum. And if Charles is going to introduce our new town planner, Philip, how do you say your last name? Feinhals. Philip Feinhals tonight. Charles, take it away.
Sure. So hiding in the corner back here is Philip Feinhals. He is, as you mentioned, the new town planner. He started about a month ago now. You don't hear me, by the way. Prior to starting here, there we go. Prior to starting here, he was at A&M. He got his, I try not to hold that against him, but there you go. He got his degree in university studies with a minor in planning and business. And he is from Rowlett, still lives in Rowlett. And he's doing a great job. I've been very impressed by him in the time I've worked with him. And I think you will be too as you get to know him. So welcome, Philip.
Welcome, Philip. Okay, great. So moving on to the consent agenda items. These are items that are on the consent agenda. There's 2 items. Items 2 and 3. They're on pages 5 to 7 and 8 and 10. The first one is the approval of the minutes from the April 21st meeting. The second item is a MPD for a Long Creek Crossing Master Plan Development. That's at 480 US Highway 80. Case number 1697, Long Creek Crossing Long 8, and that's a site plan. So if there is no issues from the committee members, we can go ahead and approve the consent agenda items. If you want to pull something off there, let's go ahead and do that now. If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Make the motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Great. Mr. Moss makes a motion.
I'll second.
Ms. Mitchell, second. All in favor? Great. So moving right along, the consent agenda is approved unanimously. So we'll go ahead and move to the public hearing section of our agenda. That's section F. Item 4, it's on pages 11 to 15 of our packet. And this is to hold a public hearing to discuss, consider, and act upon a recommendation regarding an ordinance granting a special use designation, or SUD, for an accessory dwelling unit on the property zone single-family SF1, single-family 1, located generally at 102 North Pascal Road. This is case number 1695, SUD Jones for the ADU. It's an accessory dwelling unit. Is the applicant here, Charles?
I believe I saw them. Yes.
Do you all want to come up and speak in terms of this? Don't feel like you need to, but if you want to come say a few words, just go ahead and if you could just introduce yourself, sir, and then your address.
Jones, Pascal Road, Sunnyvale, Texas. What do I need to do?
I probably did this a little bit out of order. I probably should have Charles speak first. But sir, if you want to stay there just for because I don't think Charles is going to be long. He's going to be brief and then introduce it in terms of and then if you want to give anything further, we may have some questions for you. Then we'll go ahead and open up it.
You guys have questions?
It
part of hearing. So
okay. It seems pretty straightforward. Yeah, you hang out there. Charles, I'm sorry, Charles.
Sure,
I got
no
carried
problem.
away. It's new,
We're
post-COVID.
back in
it's-
person. It's throwing us off. So the subject property is located at 102 North Paschal Road. It consists of 1.32 acres that's currently zoned SF1. The property includes an existing home that was constructed in the 90s, and they're now requesting a special use designation to allow for the construction of an accessory dwelling unit at the rear of the property. The applicant's proposing a single-story ADU that would be behind the main home. The exterior would be clad in brick to match the look of the primary residence, and access would be provided by a concrete extension of the current driveway of the primary residence. It meets all of the UDO requirements in this regard for approving an accessory dwelling unit. This one is a little bit different in that there's a little bit of history to this property. The UDO does state that in order to be considered for an accessory dwelling unit, a property has to be a minimum of 2 acres. And as I mentioned, this one's 1.32 acres. However, the applicant went to the Board of Adjustment in December of last year and was granted a variance to this requirement. So the Board of Adjustment has considered that issue. They have granted the variance. So as far as y'all are concerned, that issue is kind of off the table for your consideration. So for everything else is kind of open as to whether or not this should be approved, but it meets all other UDO requirements. Staff distributed notices to all properties within 200 feet. And we did get 2 of the 3 neighbors return letters indicating that they are in support of the request. So we recommend approval.
Thank you, Charles. Just before we open the public meeting, the third neighbor hasn't spoken to you at all, or?
The third neighbor did not respond to this letter. However, when they went to the Board of Adjustment in December, we had to send notices there, and they did respond in favor to the variance request. So they didn't respond this time, but in a very kind of similar, basically the same subject in front of the board, they were in favor of that.
Okay, great. You haven't heard of any people that are opposed to this? Okay, great.
Sir.
Does the commission have any questions for Charles before we open the public hearing? Okay, great. I guess the applicant really has not much to add, so I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Is anyone here to speak on this matter? This is the accessory dwelling unit, case 1695. I imagine most people are not here for this. Okay, seeing no one, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Commission questions, concerns, comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion. I mean, it seems, I understand there's some questions about what an accessory dwelling unit is and the concerns of it being a different acreage. I think Charles appropriately addressed that, and that's not really for what we're here for tonight to discuss. Seems like if the neighbors, if at least 100% of the neighbors say it's okay, given this location, it seems it's pretty straightforward. My thoughts. If no one has any concerns or questions, we can go ahead and make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the case 1695 said Jones accessory dwelling.
Great, I have a motion. Ms. Mitchell. I have a second. All in favor? That's unanimous as well. Thank you. Sir, you're all good. Go ahead and build your accessory dwelling unit. Enjoy. We expect invitations to the party. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Well, if the council doesn't approve, then I'm sorry. I apologize. But I'll still take an invitation to the party. So I assume most people are here for this next agenda item. This is item number 5. hold a public hearing to discuss, consider and act upon a recommendation regarding the ordinance changing the zoning on one property totaling 61.5 acres located generally at 3134 North Beltline Road from local retail LR to planned development PD, allowing for retail, sports, entertainment, and residential uses. This is case 1701Z Gateway Park. So kind of way we're going to work this is going to have Charles introduce it. We'll have the applicant come up and speak with any presentations they have, and then we'll go ahead and open the public forum, and public hearing, and sort of, I think we have a list of people that want to comment. So we'll kind of go in some sort of order of these people. If you want to comment, we're welcome to hear it. And if you just keep your comments to a few minutes, that would be great. So Charles, take it away.
Yes, sir. So this is going to be a little bit long to explain all the complexities of this, but
That's okay. We'll give you more than 3 minutes.
thank you. So this request is for the property at the southeast corner of Beltline Road and Town East Boulevard. It's comprised of 61.5 acres of mostly vacant land that's currently zoned local retail. I mentioned it's mostly vacant. There is a portion of the southern end of the property that's used as a 9-hole golf course and driving range currently. The applicant is proposing to rezone the property from local retail to a planned development that would accommodate a mix of uses, including a sports complex with a kind of entertainment and hospitality component, some retail uses, and potentially some small lot senior housing uses. And just kind of for people listening, a planned development is a specific zoning district that applies to only one property or one area that is often used when there are uses or other standards that aren't otherwise applicable to the town more generally. It's very common in uses where there are, or in areas where there are a mix of uses that might have some unique issues you might have to take care of because the uses are in proximity to each other. The PD would follow typical UDO requirements in most cases, but would include some special provisions that we'll walk through. The PD divides the property into sub-districts, and I'm going to deviate a little bit from what is included in the staff report with the agenda because the developer has made some changes based on community feedback they've received since the agenda was posted. So the site will now include 3 sub-districts. The staff report on the agenda had included 4. But the applicant has removed the single family 4 sub-district from the plan. The sub-district boundaries would ultimately be determined by market conditions, but the PD would include an exhibit showing the maximum dimensions of how large these could be and where they would go. So the first sub-district is the local retail sub-district. It would apply to the entire property and follow the same standards of the general local retail zoning district, which is the zoning on the property today, plus allow home improvement centers, so that's Home Depot, Lowe's, things like that, and automobile rental uses. So it's local retail plus those 2 uses. The second sub-district is the sports and entertainment sub-district. And it's comprised of a maximum of 47 acres, and that's that area shown in purple on the screen. It would be used as a private sports complex with a variety of play fields for different sports that would also include 4 indoor courts and just a facility for other rentals for events and things like that. The facility would be used for youth and adult sports, for leagues and tournament hostings. And the hours of the sports uses would be 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. On Saturday and Sunday. The special event subdistrict would carry forward all of the uses allowed in the local retail subdistrict, as well as some new uses that aren't currently in the UDO, that being private playfields or stadiums, private children's play areas, which is like splash pads and playgrounds if they wanted to add that for families, a food truck court that would have parking for 4 food trucks, as well as a private dog park. And then the final subdistrict is the pocket neighborhood. And this is another area where there's a change from the staff report. The applicant is now proposing a maximum of 20 acres. for the Pocket neighborhood, and they're showing two options for where this could be located. One up by Town East on the northern end of the property, or one on the southern end as kind of a backup plan if the sports complex falls through. It could be in one or the other, but not both. And in both locations, it maintains the first 350 feet of depth of the property along Beltline for retail uses. In the staff report, I also mentioned that there's two kinds of residential development that would be permitted in the Pocket neighborhood subdistrict. The applicant is no longer proposing the single family 5 use designation there, and they're only proposing the age restricted residential, which is 55 and up, with the dimensional requirements shown on the screen here. I won't walk through them in detail, but we can reference them if you have any questions. And then on the other side of the screen is kind of a concept of what that could look like. So it's smaller lots, so there's not much yard maintenance that would front a common open lawn that would be used by all of the residents in these little pods, if you will. The residential would have to meet all other requirements of the UDO for residential development. So in this slide, which was an exhibit that again has changed a little bit, shows just some potential for how this could lay out. These aren't kind of pick and choose options of what you like or don't like, but again, these will be determined by the market. But these are just to give you a visual of, depending on how this plays out, it could look like something like this once you mix all the sub-districts together, just so you have a visual of what that means. And then that's kind of a concept plan that shows what the sports complex could look like, which we'll talk about, the applicant will talk about more in a minute. In addition to the sub-district structure, the PD would include some alternative development standards. The building heights for the local retail and the sports entertainment sub-district would be, they're proposing to be 65 feet for the properties that are within 350 feet of Beltline, or the pad sites that are within 350 feet, and then go up to 80 feet further away from Beltline behind the 350-foot mark. And that is to account for the lights around the ball fields, and also potentially to make the site more attractive for a hotel use, which they view as complementary to kind of the leagues and tournament hostings that this property could accommodate. Additionally, the staff report talks about mutual access drives. These would be 24-foot wide drives that would be used to provide access to the interior lots within the development that would go through the lots that are closer to Beltline and closer to Town East. They would utilize existing curb cuts, and there would be landscaping buffers and sidewalks in certain locations to make sure that there's also pedestrian connectivity into the site. Then screening, there are special screening requirements. Again, this is one of the reasons that you have a PD, because you have residential so close to other uses. There would be a requirement of a minimum 25-foot buffer that would be landscaping. There would be an 8-foot masonry wall, and then trees planted 15 feet on center to help screen from view and things like that. Parking would follow typical UDO standards in most cases, but there would be an allowance because so much of this site, especially the sports complex, would be under common ownership. It would have a special provision that would allow them to submit a parking study that would go into detail of what their peak parking demand would be, and if there could be any relief based on sharing of parking between uses, or just more specific to how they intend to run the property, if any parking relief could be granted above and beyond what's generally allowed by the UDO. That's a fairly actually common requirement or provision in most zoning ordinances. Most cities have some ability to provide that kind of study. Our UDO doesn't, so we're looking to add that, but for the time being, we're just going to insert it into this PD. And then lighting would be allowed at the perimeter of the fields within the sports and entertainment subdistrict up to 70 feet tall, and they'd be subject to all other photometric requirements of the UDO. Signage also would be amended to just kind of, again, consider this all one big complex, allow signage for the interior retail uses to have signs out on Beltline, and some signs to promote the center as a whole. So that's kind of the details of what's in the PD, or what we're proposing to be in the PD. In making a recommendation, staff looks at the comprehensive plan and more specifically the future land use map that's included in the comprehensive plan for guidance as to what the town envisions for development on properties into the future. These documents, in this case, call for the property to be used for retail uses, but it also acknowledges that for properties along Beltline specifically, in this one, that are so deep, the plan acknowledges that it's unlikely that local retail is viable once you get further back into the property. Retail wants to be close to the main corridor. Once you lose that visibility, it's not a good site for retail. So the comprehensive plan does mention that other uses might be considered for further back in the property. And so we think this plan preserves the Beltline corridor for retail development, but does consider some alternative uses that we think are complementary and could actually catalyze the retail development, not only on this site, but also on other sites on the corridor. So staff recommends approval of the request. I also want to note that, again, we sent letters to all property owners within 200 feet of this property. We did receive 8 responses back from those within the buffer area. All opposed. And in addition to that, I've emailed you and left some ones that we received late today at your places on the dais of additional letters, as well as a petition that's been signed in opposition to the request. So with that explanation, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Charles, just for transparency, the petition and most of the letters that you received were prior to the applicant changing the PD?
Yes.
Commissioners, if you have any questions for Charles initially off the bat without the applicant speaking or without the public forum, go ahead and get those out of the way now, or we can wait and kind of get some. I tend to like to let the public speak and get this applicant up here because that's what really people are here for. So unless you have a burning question, I'll go ahead and skip to that if you're okay with that. Great. Can the applicant come and speak? Sir, if you could just state your name and your name and address. I thought you're leaving. I'm like, it's not that bad. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Derek Salser, 129 North Collins Road, Salser Development Group, Sunnyvale, Texas. Seems kind of weird to be in here with people. It's good in a good way. Thanks for having me back here. I've been here a few times over the years. Some of you have been around long enough to see some of my other projects. My intention was to meet with all of you one-on-one prior to this meeting. I think I met with 5 or 6 of you. I apologize. I had to go get my daughter from college and then another daughter in the hospital a couple of weeks. Life happened and didn't quite get there. But thanks for your advice and counsel on the meetings that I did have. I've lived in the area since the late 1900s, as you probably know, and 28 years in Garland, Dallas, Mesquite, and the last 20 years right here in Sunnyvale. In the house that I designed and built here, actually the first of 8 projects that I've designed and developed in the town. So it's been a nice live, work, play, educate the kids kind of place to raise my family. This town is very personal to me, as I think a lot of you know. Both my kids graduated, or one's about to in 2 weeks, K through 12 here at the schools. I run several businesses here in town. And even during the pandemic, my little development next door has brought 19 new businesses to the town. So I'm very proud of that. And I know some of you have your own visions for Sunnyvale. I do have a personal vision for Sunnyvale, and that is I'm trying to create places and spaces that are, destination family friendly, places for local hangout. That's kind of what my passion. And I know that's, I call these legacy projects and projects that hopefully will impact the town long after I'm living in the pocket neighborhood and beyond. So where's the clicker? All right. Next. Okay, no, keep it there for a second. That picture,
Hotac here.
that picture is the homepage for the Town of Sunnyvale website. Okay, that is the picture taken from my front door of my house, looking across the pond. So that for the last 20 years, that's what I walk out the front door and see. I don't remember the town asking me permission to use that picture, so I've got an invoice here for, I don't know who to give it to, maybe Susan, town attorney. No? All right, we'll write that one off. Check. Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. So I know that lots of landowners and developers come in here with their ideas all the time, and they present their properties, and they have a lot of words and a lot of fancy 3D models, because I was an architect for 25 years. I've done this for a while. But I think the past 4 years there's been more development and more change in the town than the previous 68-year history of the town. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not. And it's a lot of responsibility to try to see what the vision is when you're just looking at all these projects. Next slide. So most projects come in here. This is the state of the project when you see it. Does anyone know what this is? That's a Whataburger right there. Of course, it's not there because when you guys approved it, you were just going on renderings. You can go to the next one. I bet you know what this one is. But who would know that Kearney's feed yard would be what it is today? And that's what it looked like in 2018, July of 18, something like that. All right, next one. And don't you all recognize the 90-foot tall lineage building right there? And then lastly, what do you think there? That's what Park Square looked like July 2018. So this is very recent. This is just 3 or 4 years go by. Things changed so much. And some of you may have been around long enough to know the not disagreement, but the criticism I received for buying this property. A lot of people thought it should be, not that one, but yeah, that one. A lot of people thought it should be a fire station, a police station, a community center, a library, anything but what I did over here. And then a couple of neighbors even told me they just like it better as a field. And I don't disagree. It's a beautiful field. So you can go on next. I think you're all familiar with the property. Thanks, Charles. That was a better description than I could have given my own PD. So I'll just kind of hopefully do some color commentating here and go through as fast as I can, get to the comments so we can start addressing. This is the 60 acres you see up there in the upper left. And believe it or not, this property that we're buying is a half a mile long. I don't know if you guys realize that. It's 2,600, approximately 2,600 feet long, which I think 5280 is a mile. So that was shocking to me to learn that. This aerial map that you see right there was taken 2 months ago. I have some really nice developer software that does flyovers every month. So that's a 2-month-old picture. So when I bought my house when I bought my property in 2000, all the way from the western side of the homestead all to over to the eastern side of Stony Creek over by Ted's house, none of that was there. There were four schools that aren't there now. All those houses in the middle were not there. And what would really shock you is if I put the aerial, and I should have, of 2000 up there, that's a shocker in a population way. So you can go to the next one. Well, this is someone you may know that, may know who he is, but he has a big part in why we named this property PD the Gateway Park. That's Dr. William Worthington Samuel. And he and his family moved here in the late 1870s. They settled in New Hope, Texas, which is basically Sunnyvale was formed by New Hope, Hatterville, Long Creek Trip in 1953, something like that. When he passed away in 1937, he donated all his farms and lands to the city of Dallas, including Samuel New Hope Park, which is the big park right there behind our property. That's a 5 million square foot park, 120 acres. That's 3 times the size of Town Center Park, just to give you an idea. And the south part of our property that we're buying is at an angle. If you see the angle it cuts through, that's a pipeline, a very, very large pipeline by Atmos Energy. You can go to the next one. Okay, so this is the property. North is to the left. That's not a good way to ever present something, but that's what it is. Over the past 5 years, I have looked at several developers' attempts to purchase this property, failed attempts. And I think they weren't successful because they really didn't have a comprehensive plan development, no framework, and they didn't, and what they did propose didn't make sense for Sunnyvale. And just to prove that, I polled about a dozen non-Sunnyvale developers around Dallas, and I asked them, what they thought the highest and best use was for this property. You're not gonna like it. You want to know what they said? What? Apartments, multifamily apartments, light industrial, multi-story high-density senior living, townhomes, self-storage, retail restaurants, and single family. I mean, some of that they got right, but that just goes to show that, basically a highest and best use is just code for, that's how they make the most money. And yes, that's how people would make the most money. So if you look at our proposed plan development, we have no multifamily, we don't have any industrial, and we've cut out the SF4 and SF5, trying to pare it down to something that the town will find palatable. Go to the next slide. All right, you've looked at these zoning overlays. I won't go completely through them again, but some questions that I've received about local retail. The underlying zoning is local retail. The big question I get is, why not just leave it local retail? Why do you have to do this plan development? And the answer is, there's already thousands of retailers, 10 minutes in every direction, not in Sunnyvale, but other towns. So the market cannot support another 60-acre shopping district. And there's a beautiful shopping center under construction across the street. Our property that we're proposing to buy it's over 1,000 feet deep, and basically what Charles said it better than I am. No one's going to put their retail business 1,000 foot off the road. And then when you get basically 400 feet back from the road, that's what my dad would call no man's land back there. What do you do with the back part of the property? That's where a lot of other developers have failed too. And then the further you go from the corner, the less appealing it is for retailers and restaurants. So for that no man's land, we have proposed several things. One is called the Sports and Entertainment District, and the other one is a pocket neighborhood, which is age protected, 55 up, active adult residential. First, I'll talk about the sports and entertainment. The upper right diagram in purple does show that that's 37 acres currently as it's drawn. For the sports and entertainment zoning, this does allow for all kinds of fun things, indoor and outdoor sports, fields and courts, which you'll hear more about in a minute, tournament hosting, local retail, underlying zoning. So everything in local retail can be there as well. Food, beverage, indoor and outdoor events. The bottom two diagrams do show the pocket neighborhood, age protected. the zone is maximum 20 acres. The one on the right, like Charles said, the bottom right is if the sports group goes away, which I'll let him tell you what the odds are of it going away in a minute. And then the bottom left one is if the sports group is on the right, then that could be where Pocket Neighborhood is on the upper left, backing up to the park. One thing I forgot to mention, a lot of people don't realize what is included in local retail that I see possible for this property. And I like a lot of the local retail uses. There's hotels, there's bakeries, there's banks, there's grocery stores, there's beauty shops, there's dance studios, florists, furniture stores. I'm just reading right out of the UDO here, sorry. Hardware stores, libraries, dry cleaning, meat markets, medical clinics, pharmacies, pet stores, office professionals. So there's a lot of good stuff that can go in local retail, and we certainly expect it to go here. If the sports and entertainment complex is the catalyst for this, the market will show what will want to be around that, but it will likely, be retail, restaurants, and maybe fuel center, market, small grocery store. Those are all things that we're talking to developers about. Nothing guaranteed, of course, for any of those, but we're trying. For 2 years, I was in charge of designing all the Krogers in the Southwest United States. So I know that market, and some of my partners are also connected in that market, and they have, I'm not going to name any of the major brands, but we've talked to all the major brands, and they all have restrictions and requirements that the town would have to meet to get a grocery store of any size. And that's not a conversation for today, but it'll come up later in probably another presentation. All right, so before I talk about what a pocket neighborhood is, we found a user that I believe will fit the sports and entertainment zone perfectly. And to use sports phrases, we believe it's a win for the town, home run, game changer, grand slam, slam dunk, and insert whatever else you want. But this sports complex, as you're about to hear, will be like no other in the country. And let me introduce to you the CEO of the athletic club, Eric Warner. If he'll come up, he'll take over the clicker.
Sir, if you just state your name and address for the record. Eric Warner, 3941 Floyd Drive in Fort Worth, Texas. Thank you. First, I appreciate the opportunity to come up here and speak to you and be able to verbalize our project. It means a lot. So first slide, or next slide. Essentially what we're proposing is a dream of mine. I grew up in the hospitality industry. I'll get to more of that in just a second, but essentially this project is going to consist of 2 different pillars. First pillar being a sporting complex, multi-use, multi-sport. Second pillar being a hospitality center to help bring the community together once they're here at the sporting complex. So next slide. First off, the sports complex will be a first-class facility. It's approximately 37 acres. It'll have fully turfed fields. We will do, baseball, football, softball, 7-on-7, every demographic that you can think of, from youth all the way up to college, to be able to play on these fields. We'll have courts with swing down arms to turn them from basketball courts to volleyball courts, futsal, pickleball, you name it. And so I really think the multi-sport functionality of this sports complex is what's really going to separate us from a lot of other complexes. Next slide. This is going to be a $28 to $30 million project. It's going to have 4 total hardwoods. I'm not trying to compete with a field house or a game on, if you're familiar with those concepts. This one is going to be a little bit more boutique style. So it's a little bit smaller of a program. One of the courts being a championship style court that will, seat anywhere between 600 and 800 people. So they'll have the opportunity to really play in a championship
arena or have a game that's actually meaningful where we can really invite the guests and partner not only with the leagues that we're going to support, but hopefully with the local Sunnyvale school districts as well. It'll have, what we have up here is 8 turfed fields. 6 of those will be full 310 to the corners, 385 to center, which is a full high school, junior college level style field. They'll be fully turfed. So what we'll do is we'll have a fencing, as you can see, kind of the football fields that are located on the top and to the left. Those will be that's a full 100-yard football field. We'll be able to turn those into not only soccer fields, football fields, youth soccer fields, 7-on-7. The fences will simply accordion style off of the field, and they'll be able to turn it into it in minutes. So we can play a baseball or softball game on it, and then 10, 15 minutes later, we'll be able to start playing 7-on-7 football. It'll consist of 6 large high school fields. There'll be 1 youth style field, which is on the right side fourplex, kind of the smaller one. And then the smallest field there is actually a really about 110, 125 to the corners. This is going to be kind of our charity field. It's called a Miracle Field. I don't know if you're familiar with the Miracle League, but it's for low and high functioning, handicapped children that want to play the sport but don't have the opportunity to. So we want to create an environment where we can partner with local charities. The Miracle League is actually a nationwide league, and so every Saturday and Sundays we'll be able to host tournaments for these children. I think it's a great opportunity to really kind of get people involved in the community. I took my son to go watch several of these, and my son is a diehard baseball fan, and to be able to watch this, it really put tears in his eyes to be able to see how blessed he is. And I really love the opportunity to be able to not only every high level athlete, but everyone that's also in need to be able to participate in this as well. Next slide. So the hospitality piece, while some of these pictures may be, kind of stock photos that I've pulled off the internet, the idea of them is still the same. The hospitality piece will have quick concessions, we'll have food trucks, we'll have a local restaurant inside, more of a quick service style, kind of like a sports bar, outdoor patio arena with retail, music, and gaming. Go to the next slide. What you can see here is kind of the layout of how the fields will be to the north or to the east, I guess I should say. You'll see 4 basketball gyms. You'll have that white area there is kind of the foyer. It'll have a second story that'll also have some private offices and possibly a suite for any scouts or anybody like that would like to come to be able to watch some of the basketball games. The dark green square there is about a 4,000 square foot food and beverage and retail center, working through a partnership with New Balance right now. So the New Balance will probably have a New Balance store in there as well that we'll partner with all of our gear and uniforms and apparel. On the light green square will be a covered patio. So this will be about 16,000 square foot patio. It'll be enclosed on all 3 sides, with the exception of the north end of the slide here. That will have big bay windows, the garage doors that'll open up to some food trucks right there on the kind of the gateway. So our menu is going to be very, very simple. It'll include essentially smoked meat. So we'll have a smoker going at all times, which everybody loves smoke, blowing through the air. We'll have sides sides for athletes and sides for fans. So if you're on a particular diet, we'll be able to cater to those as well. Or if you just want some good old fashioned nachos and fries, we'll have that as well. On the north side, in that large kind of square there, we've got an arrow to it. We'll have some live music. All of this will be facing to the right or south side, I should say. All of that will be enclosed with the exception of those bay windows. So I think that we're designing it with sound in mind, so that way there's no overspill into the neighborhoods and housing developments. Anything that does come out of there will go to the east, which should hit not only the ball fields, but then the Samuel New Hope Park. Should be a lot of fun. We'll have some adult gaming in there, lots of picnic tables. People will be able to come in, play their games, go into the food and beverage, grab something to eat, go sit in the patio, enjoy themselves, hang out. We'll embrace technology, which will have a ton of TVs with all the ball fields and courts there as well. So anybody that's, a grandparent or a parent that doesn't want to sit in the elements, if it's a little bit colder, maybe drizzling, they'll be able to go inside and sit and watch their games. We'll also stream them at home. So anybody playing there will also be able to see their games, subscribing through our website. So it'll be a lot of fun. Like I said, I'm from the hospitality piece. And so I wanted to really embrace a sports complex that introduces a strong hospitality presence that is embodies what the community is and embodies who we are and who we want to be as well. It's not just a money maker, that it is a true country club experience that hopefully people would love to stay and hang out all day. Next slide. Next one. So I wanted to introduce kind of the team, who's going to be doing what. My name's Eric. I've worked for Landry's, which was specifically Saltgrass Steakhouse. I'm sure if y'all have eaten at one of those. Worked there for 14 years as a manager. I was a senior GM, Landry's acquisitions ambassador. So Landry's used to buy they still do, they buy all of the concepts across the nation. As they would buy them, I would travel around and I would convert them over to the dark side. We've converted, hostile takeovers. We've converted just regular buyouts. So really enjoyed it. I got all my roots and my experience through them. They are a box, so you're kind of limited on what you can do. So I knew that hospitality means a little bit more. A friend of mine, we both did the Landry's thing together, and we opened up 80/20 Hospitality, which is HG Supply Co. We have one in Dallas off of Greenville Avenue by SMU, have one in Fort Worth. We also opened up Standard Service out in Rockwall, and then we moved it to Heath. We opened up Hero, which is right outside American Airlines Center, a big 26,000 square foot kind of sports bar right outside of where the Mavs and Stars play. So we've opened up a ton of other concepts as well, and Trophy Club, Dallas across Dallas and Fort Worth. So I have a lot of experience there. When I left there, I was vice president of operations and strategy. I had a dream of building a sports complex and entertaining hospitality with it. 80/20 is a strong restaurant company. They want to focus mainly on restaurants, and it just wasn't something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I wanted to kind of venture out and build my own thing and really show what we can do. So this athletic club is my dream and my passion. I've been working on it for about 2.5 years. And finally, I'm blessed and honored to be here in front of you presenting it today. Next slide. So Fran Harris is somebody that I met, a fantastic woman. She actually called the city of Sunnyvale, wanted to do a gym style game on or field house as well with her concept. She has a couple other ones down in Austin and in Forney that she's working on. Once she called y'all, I think they put her in touch with Derek. Derek put her in touch with me, and we've kind of forged a relationship over the last 6 months. She's landed a deal about 4 months ago on Shark Tank. She now has a electrolyte drink that's going in all 180 different HEBs in central markets. She's worked for ESPN and Fox Sports as an announcer. She's won a NCAA championship with the University of Texas, and she won a WNBA championship with Houston Comets. She's a fantastic woman and business partner. She's been instrumental in our programming. I'm highly educated in the hospitality piece, and then on the field, baseball, 7-on-7, all that. She's going to bring an element to the hardwoods, which I don't have. And so she's going to help us with the operations and the execution of the hardwoods and leagues and everything that she knows across the country and all the sporting scouts and whatnot. So she's a great person. I've really enjoyed it. She's an owner operator as well. She's not just an employee. So she's invested, and I'm very blessed to have her on the team. Next slide. From a general manager of sports, a guy named Brad Wiggins, graduated high school at Arlington Heights in Fort Worth, was drafted by the Baltimore Orioles, played for them for 3 years, got hurt, went back, was a server in the hospitality industry while he went to college, got his degree, realized he loved baseball, went back to baseball, and he's been a professional hitting instructor since 2012. He's currently the assistant general manager of DBAT. I'm sure y'all heard of DBAT across the nation. Great guy, highly educated in the sports world. He'll kind of run everything under my and Fran's guidance. I love him. Next slide. Chef Marcus owns 3 different concepts in Fort Worth, one of them being Clay Pigeon, Piatello's, and then Provender Hall. I've known him for a long time, just being in the hospitality industry. He's going to help design all the menus and the food. Another great guy. I'd love to partner with him because everything that I want to do, he does incrementally at all of his current concepts. So opening this restaurant and partnering with them, this will be our 4th restaurant, not our 1st restaurant. So next slide. Chef John worked for me at 80/20 for a long time. He's still currently there. He's a great dude. Another guy that understands food. Worked for many fantastic people and fantastic chefs in Dallas. And so he's going to bring an element. He's going to run all the operations day to day. He's more operations, and Chef Marcus is more creative. Next slide. So essentially kind of a summary. One more. I always like to put together how do we compare to, other markets and other industries that are doing something similar. Everybody's familiar with Game On, Field House, Field of Dreams, 4-0. These concepts are kind of singular focused on sports. Some of them do different things, introduce a little bit of maybe TABC or a cafe, something like that. But we really want to be all encompassing, all inclusive of not only all sports, but all demographics as well. So when it's all said and done, we're going to be able to cater to essentially everybody and be a very strong community pillar that is inclusive of everybody and whatever you're into. So I just kind of like to throw that out there so you can kind of see, what we plan on doing versus some of the industry leaders in DFW. Next slide. Lastly, with this one, this is really a partnership with Sunnyvale. Obviously we would love to have the support. We can't do this without the city of Sunnyvale. I think it's going to do 3 really big things. One is creation. It's going to create a lot of jobs. I would love to partner with a lot of the schools, have some intern programs, especially part-time jobs, along with, I think it's going to create 50, 60 plus full-time jobs. I think I have a culture in the industry. I've worked for a lot of restaurants that have had bad culture. I've worked for a lot of restaurants that have good culture. Culture is a very, very, very strong word with me. We're going to have a be real conversation or be real culture. I'm presenting to you today exactly who I am, exactly who this company is going to be. And the culture is number one, and we want to create a space that's very safe for everybody to be able to work. And it's very, very important. Lastly, the benefit, I think that this is a long-term asset. This is, Derek spoke on it a little bit, that after, when he's long and gone, that their legacy lives on. This isn't a restaurant. A really good restaurant has about 30, 35-year lifespan. This is something that I think is going to, test the time. It's going to be around for a long time. We're going to create a space that has a ton of sports. Youth sports is a $19 billion industry. To put in comparison, the NFL is a $15 billion industry. And so people are going to spend money on sports. If you have kids, I'm sure that you do, or other things like band or dance and things like that. So this is going to be something that's going to test the time. And I think it's really going to have a long impact on the community. So really excited about the partnership, and I appreciate the time. I'll turn it back over to Derek.
Thanks, sir. Well, you can see why I'm excited about having Eric on our team. He's awesome. We worked on multiple HG supply restaurants together, and of course the standard service we call the hub. It's called Southridge technically, and Heath was our project that we developed right before Park Square. And then there's another HG that's going up in Rockwall on next to Trend Tower eventually. But let's go to the next slide. What is a pocket neighborhood? This will be the last thing I talk about, then we get some questions. It is a small private neighborhood for seniors, 55 years and up, which I'm knocking on that door in 3 years. Typically gated, but always fenced, deed restricted, age restricted to 55. I've talked to a lot of developers who build these kinds of neighborhoods, and they've told me how they enforce it, and it is enforceable. And these are upscale communities. I don't want to say fancy, but they're really, really special. The homes are usually less than 2,000 square feet, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, laundry room, kitchen, dining, living, and a and a garage. That's a 2-car garage. That's about what a typical unit looks like. Unlike a normal neighborhood that you have a street, like I live in the Homestead, where you drive down New Hope Road and turn in your driveway, these homes all front park space. The front porches, you see that picture is an example of the pocket neighborhood. And you go to the next one too. They're popping up all over the place. It's the common area, green space, walking paths, rather than a street in your front yard. Per our PD, we're requiring the developer to build a community center. And the developers we've talked to also have swimming pools, pickleball courts, fire pits, and other amenities as well. I told my parents about this, and they asked, is there a waiting list? So I think there's definitely a market for this. I'm a 99% chance guy that our sports friends back here are going to come through. And if that's the case, then our pocket neighborhood will likely be smaller than what we're talking about. We're asking for a potential 20-acre maximum. Also, the developers who do these have told me, can you go to the next slide, that they understand the restriction or the information that they will be next to a sports complex, and they will have to agree to that before they develop their project. But they also said that's a positive thing because seniors want to be next to things like this, believe it or not. And he touched on the noise and the traffic and things like that, which we can get into in the question and answer. But they've really thought this through about being adjacent to a development like this. Just wrapping up, I'll shut up here. Let's go to the last slide, or actually go one more. So I showed you pictures of 3 or 4 years ago from a lot of other places around Sunnyvale. This is a picture of the property today. So my question is, 4 years from now, we come back in here and we look at this picture again and see what has changed. That's my I'm curious to know what this picture is going to look like in 4 years. So thank you for letting me address the commission, and I'm available for questions, and so is Eric.
Great, thank you. Is there any, again, I want to really kind of get to the public hearing because that's really what people are here for. So unless there's any, like obviously burning questions that can't wait till after the public hearing, or you can ask them now. I think there's plenty of information to digest, and I'm sure questions will come up with the city people that are here. So any questions before
I've got one question. Mr. Salter, when we talked earlier, you had mentioned something that you did not think that this land had to be sold in one package, that the chance of it being sold piecemeal for this particular retail or that particular retail was not possible. Is that still correct?
As in, after we buy it, how we'll sell it off, or before we
Before
purchase
you
it?
buy it?
Before we buy it, it's one tract.
Yeah, okay. So a developer couldn't come in there and buy 10 acres and another one buy 15 and so on. It's one tract as it is now, right?
It is one tract right now. Now, I can't speak for the seller of the property. He can do, I can't speak for him, but we are buying the whole 68.
Thank you.
any other questions at all? Great, thank you. I'm sure we'll get back to you. So I have 3 cars in front of me, but again, if anyone else wants to speak, just please fill out one of these cards so we can kind of keep it orderly. And then if you could just, when you come up to the mic, if you just state your name and address for the record. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and open the public meeting. The first comment card I have is Debbie. Okay. Debbie, do you want me to announce anything on your card or just let you pass? Okay. That was easy. Okay. Second card is Denise. Yes, ma'am. If you want to. Oh, you said you will speak. Oh, no, you're welcome. We'll even give you a few more seconds than 3 minutes. How's that?
It's just, my comments are, one, I live at 115 Counties Boulevard, which is where one of the cutouts come from this property. In fact, lines up with my driveway. I didn't receive notification. I had to get it from someone else. I've called the new Mr. Finisar. I've yet to get a call back on the
Feinhals.
question on that. I'm against this for a variety of reasons. One is because one of the individuals involved in this development is big on promising things to cities as far as baseball projects go. It failed in Dallas, the Rivershon Park thing. It failed in Rowlett, Waco, and numerous other cities. And it's not something that you need to be involved in this city. There's not enough success with developing one like this. You're talking about bringing in a lot of people from outside of Sunnyvale to use these facilities. This is not something, they haven't spoken to the school district. It's not something the school district needs. They have baseball fields. It's for select teams. It's for private teams that you pay, rather large sums of money for your children to be on. There's lots of tournament things. And the way those tournaments are is, if I lose, I'm taking my kid home. I'm not staying in your hotel. I'm probably not eating in your restaurant because we're hitting fast food on the way out of town. And if I win, I'm not staying local. I'm taking my kids somewhere else so I could have a strategy talk with them. So I'm driving into Mesquite to hit those restaurants there. If grandma comes, you're right. She's going to sit at the restaurant in the air conditioning because I'm the grandma. And I'm going to, sit there and eat something and drink something while it's go on. I'm not buying the subscription for, it's a lot of pie in the sky that they're promising you right now. And there is no successful track record behind it. And additionally, no small lots in Sunnyvale, really. If you looked at what they presented, those don't have brick finishes on them. It's very similar to what Lupton was proposing at one time. It's not what you need in Sunnyvale this time. There's lots of residential property in Sunnyvale that you can develop for other things. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. I like to spank my son when he plays poorly. So just, I'm kidding. Everybody's actually a good ball player. Okay. Oh, Charles. So can we comment on her? Did she not get a letter? Or what's the?
So we researched it. She was sent a letter. I don't know why it wasn't received, but she was on the list that was sent a letter.
No, I don't want to dwell. I just make sure,
We have a list of everyone that was sent a letter.
I know people are answering the phones up here because I call up here quite frequently. So there's an issue with the phone line. We just verify. Okay. Next is Alexandra Salter. Ma'am, do you want to speak or are you just in support? Definitely. How can we give the portable mic to her? I think we know where you live, ma'am, because we saw the picture. But if you want to state your name and address for us, that'd be great.
My name is Alexandra Salser. I live at 345 New Hope Road, Sunnyvale. So I'm in support of this development. Yes, my last name is Salser. That is also not the reason why I'm in support of this development. So 3 years ago, I went on my Make-A-Wish trip and I met one of my great friends, Sam. After my trip, I got to go see Sam play at his Miracle League field in Frisco. One of the wonderful things about a Miracle League field is that it allows not even just children, but people have a safe and accessible place for them to be able to go and participate in sports and activities. The reason this is the case is because the ground is made out of a rubber-like material. Whenever I went to go see my friend Sam play baseball, it was just a joy to watch all the kids run and roll through the bases. And the kids' faces when they could slide in base and score a run for their team was priceless. I think this town should support an environment that brings those inspirational moments and priceless moments that those kids can experience, like I experienced when I went to go see my friend Sam's game. I hope you all support this project. Yes, my dad is the developer, but this is something that I have been in Sunnyvale my entire life. And I think this is something that is a very positive thing. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We won't hold your dad against you. Next is Ellis. I think this is Ellis. Ellis, would you like to speak? Oh, just come up and state your name and address for the record, and then we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Address is 396 North Johnson Road. I live in Sunnyvale, a resident for about 22 years, and also own the property right across from this development. My major question, one of the things is that in the senior housing, I know that currently that Sunnyvale School allow the senior, like grandparents to have their grandkids use the school. So will that be applicable for this development also? And if it does, then how it's going to impact the school facilities? Will the regular people who are not capped, like the seniors are going to be capped on their property taxes? And will we all be taking a burden to educate these kids who are going to come through this housing? And the second thing is the 8 sports fields that's going to come in that location. This is like the entryway into our housing. I live on Jobson, and so does so many other housing, complexes. We all use that road, Town East Beltline, as the main entryway to our homes. Back and forth, the kids drive through there. With these 8 sports complexes or fields coming in there, how is the crowd going to impact those areas? There's going to be a whole lot of crowds after the games, I don't know, before the games, going to be flooding that area, and how it's going to impact the safety of the current residents who live in that area or on, use Town East and Town East to get to their homes, including the children. And these are the 2 reasons why I, decided to oppose this rezoning. And I would like to keep it local retail, which will bring business and service for Sunnyvale residents and revenue for town without bringing in a whole lot of big crowd into our entryways, which can always fill into our communities as well. And I request that the town and PMC board preserve the town, small town feel and safety and our property values by not accepting this rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. This might be a good point to briefly stop and address those 2 things, because they might, and Brenda, if I'm wrong, the grandparent clause that she's referring to, we cannot do anything about that. It's sort of like sounds like that's a legal thing.
So we addressed this issue when we had a previous senior housing development proposed. And my understanding is that the deed restrictions will prevent the situation that she addressed, where grandparents come and stay with where grandchildren come and stay with their grandparents and go to school. And that can be addressed through the deed restrictions.
So in short, it's sort of part of the deed restriction that would prevent the grandparent clause. The second question she had was the property taxes and how to lower them. If you could tell me some advice, that'd be great too. Or like the capping of property taxes in this neighborhood, is that someone can address that topic? Susan, you want to address the?
Yeah, I mean, we do have ceilings that are based upon age in terms of our property tax. So, I mean, that is a legitimate thing that when you reach a certain age, we do have tax ceilings. So that is legitimate, and as do most communities in the metro area.
Something to look forward to.
Yes, sir.
Great.
It seemed like that was tied into the grandchildren issue, though. At least that's what I took away from it, that the concern being there, a lower tax, they're going to pay lower taxes. And if they could have their grandchildren living there going to school, then that would be a real downside for the district, but doesn't sound like that would be an issue. deed restriction.
So I guess we'll, unless there's anything else, we'll go ahead and move on. Charles? Or Pease? Sorry, sir, if I butchered your last name. Mine's Peace, and I got made fun of a lot too. So. Do you want to speak, sir? Okay. Just your name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Charles Varghese. But one extra A in my Charles is normally people call Charles. My actual name is Charles Varghese. And 396 Jobson Road, Sunnyvale. That's my address. I am opposing this rezoning process, actually. And 3134 Belline Road, this project, it is not I feel it is not a good project for Sunnyvale. I'm really thinking about the small lot single family senior housing project. This is the way I'm thinking. Before the election, Sunnyvale elected officials, not all of them, at least offering or promising they're not going to bring small houses, small lots, no apartment, no multifamily homes, right? So this one, I really wonder, is elected officials going to accept this or not? Because before the election, at the campaigning, they're saying no small lots, no apartments. They're offering like that to get the vote. And that's the way they get elected. And once they get in the position, I don't know if they're going to accept this or not, or they making me misunderstandable person. And a small lot, we get several times, we get a application on this city for several developers came over here to apply for the small lot projects. But every single time, city denied that applications. That means something wrong. That's what my understanding. Because of small lots, I am living in the city for the last 23 years. I came here for a meeting several times, PNC and also city council meeting. And they never approved this small lot project. That means my understanding, something is wrong for the city. I hope you guys understand and taking good decisions for that one. And sports with 8 multi-purpose fields. That also not good for the city. This is I'm sorry, I'm always saying city, town of Sunnyvale. Sunnyvale is a town.
We'll give you one more second, 1 more minute, sir.
Sunnyvale is a small town. This town is not good for this type of sports field. Please consider this one. I am opposing again. Please, kindly, I am requesting to deny this application.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
The Matthew family. Shibu? Would you like to speak, sir? I figured.
Shibu Matthew, living in 209 Robin Ridge, Sunnyvale. I've been living in the Sunnyvale as a Sunnyvale proud gentleman for 17 years. And then many times I came for this board meetings to see what's going on in our city. And I was proud to be in a town hall and proud to be a Sunnyvale resident. But unfortunately, this proposal came multiple times and denied. And right now, we're back again in the drawing board. So this kind of proposal, a small town feelings, will take away from our community. And this is a small town, everybody wants to come in not because of this commercial development what we have the country feeling, what we enjoy in the last 17 years myself. So all the sports complex, right about 5 miles away, we have everything what we need. What we need is peaceful place, and the city or council and the city or the board will consider this to be not to be proposed to be come forward against this the proposal. And I feel like this picture perfect ideas that come along, but unfortunately, it like to me is it's a trailer park with a lot of soccer field. And we don't want that kind of community come through here to become a violent place in our community. Every sports complex, taking one simple example, by Garland, by the Northwest Highway. This area is the highest homeless population in that area right now. You know why? Because all that soccer field, that people have a lot of place to stay. They're heaven for them to have other business, which is undermine business, carry on that area. Or we need that kind of proposal to our city, or can we have a homely place that we're proud of to stay in Sunnyvale? Thank you. I'm against this proposal.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Pease, you had asked me a question and I just wanted to make sure I thoroughly answered it.
Sure.
To the commission in response to the comments from the citizen. So I just want to bring up really quickly to share with you. One moment. So I just wanted to share with you kind of the definition of a ceiling for anyone who might not be familiar with it. So it's a limit on the amount of taxes you must pay on your residence. If you qualify your residence homestead for an age of 65 or older, taxes on the homestead cannot increase as long as you own and live in that home. So when we refer to a ceiling, that means that whatever price that you pay and the amount of taxes you pay when you reach 65, then they don't go up after that, unless you add on to the home or make significant changes. So Sunnyvale does have that. And then they also have an over 65 exemption of 65,000 for the town and 10,000 for the Sunnyvale ISD. So just wanted to clarify both of those for you.
Okay, that's good tax information. Thank you. Renee Matatar, 306 Rain Tree Drive. Do you want to speak, ma'am? You're just in opposition. Okay. Oh, okay. That's understandable. So for the record, 306 Rain Tree Drive, their family's in opposition of the agenda item. Hadmaner. And would you like to speak as well? Oh, 287 Stone Ridge Drive. She's also opposed. Okay. Jay-Z Reju. Would you like to speak, ma'am? Or okay, great. Just your name, address.
Hi, my name is JC, last name Raju, 398 Redstone Drive. Sunnyvale, it's a beautiful city and I love it and I enjoy it and I like to keep the beauty of Sunnyvale. So I oppose this project or development. I have two small children, they're going to be living here and I have to raise them here. So this multi-million project or the building, I don't see a beauty in it, nothing but business. I'm not a businesswoman, so it's nothing against business, but for the safety of my family, I'm being a little selfish in here. For the safety of my children and my family, I don't see any benefit of this project. Just like someone else mentioned here before, this big court that we see on 30 and Northwest Highway, it's a home for many other people. So I don't want to ruin the beauty of Sunnyvale. So I oppose this project and, thank you for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. It's not selfish to care about your family. I don't think it is. Mr. William Kearney. Sir, if you could state your name, address.
William Kearney. I live at 105B Town East Boulevard. Good evening. My biggest concern with this is the noise. So I understand that they're talking about directing noise towards the east, which I don't know if the people at Homestead will realize that in the wintertime, there won't be any leaves on those trees along Samuel Farm Park. So there's nothing to block that sound. And then the big concern is the hours, the Monday through Friday to 11 p.m., the PA system, and then Saturday and Sunday nights till midnight. So anybody that's lived close to a stadium, football field, or anything like that, realize the sound carries pretty far. Already I have to endure 3 to 4 nights a week of live music, so even more noise would be even more of an aggravation and a nuisance. So I don't know, and then I'm sure in between, different sporting events or with slow times, they'll have more concerts, talking about fencing that collapses and speakers, I believe speakers throughout the complex. So I'm just wondering how that's going to affect the surrounding area and everybody around there. And then big question is, so I live next door to the Kearney Feed Yard, so we go by the residential sound level, but this will be surrounded by other businesses, so they'll be able to go by a louder sound level. And then how will that translate? Because if there's businesses around it that aren't open or they're making noise, then will they be going even louder? And what sound level would I be at my house? Or what would be the regulation there? Would it be the 65 decibels? Would it be 70 something decibels? And those are my biggest concerns, is the noise.
Thank you, sir. And we'll flesh that. I got the noise concern. We'll flesh it out later and get some more details on it. Thank you. Lauren Becker. Ms. Lauren Becker. I assume you want to speak. Let's check for here.
Good evening, commissioners. Guthrie, Mr. Goff, welcome, Mr. Feinhals. My name is Lauren Becker. I live at 304 Town East Boulevard. I'm speaking on the record tonight in favor of P&Z approving this PD. It's helpful to note that tonight is just the first phase in many phases of the approval process. Things like traffic studies, nuisance issues, and approval of specific concept plans would still be necessary. I'm going to go off the record a little bit. I changed my notes. I'm afraid I'd like to be a little bit more blunt than I had intended. I also know that if we leave zoning as it is now and turn away these developers who have substantial goodwill and track records locally, we are naive to think it will remain open land and a 9-hole golf course. It's precisely, if I may, this head in the sand approach that has kept our town behind the 8 ball when it comes to attracting quality development. Time has shown us that we cannot avoid progress and development in our town. We can demand greatness and seize opportunity when it presents itself, or we can let subpar generic development overrun us. Denying this proposed use would not only be a missed opportunity for a venture that could prove incredibly valuable and unique to our town, but I'm sorry to say it leads us further down the path of being a mere extension of Mesquite and Garland. With another Dollar General, another payday loan, nail salon, a Jiffy Lube, an empty strip shopping center, zoned local retail that exist all along Beltline in both directions. It's important for town citizens to understand tonight you're merely considering a zoning change at this point. We know current zoning allows the types of businesses that I just mentioned without this process even needing to take place. And there is nothing we as residents nor P&Z could do about it if a dollar store, for example, wanted to go in tomorrow. While questions remain as to the look and feel of what will be within the sports and entertainment subdistrict, this particular zoning change would be a significant benefit to our town, both as a much needed resource for our bustling youth programs and also as a source of commercial tax revenue for our town. Many of us with children and grandchildren in youth sports have traveled far and wide for them to participate in leagues and tournaments at these types of facilities. To have one within town limits is an exciting prospect, not a scary one. No. Carmen, I'm gonna give it to you. We have a booming subdivision going up right on top of the football field, right behind the school. Houses, people are paying over $500,000. They're right on top of the field. I think there's several reasons town residents take interest in a zoning change like this one, why some may be skeptical at this point, and why we expect our governing bodies to take particular care in its consideration. This is one of the last largely undeveloped commercial tracts of land through one of Sunnyvale's heavily traveled commuter corridors. The last development where such a significant commercial PD was approved sits at the corner of Collins and Highway 80. The town sold the land to a massive national developer with no particular ties or interest in our town except for financial. The Provident development is quickly becoming known by locals as Fast Food Row. Yeah, please finish. Where fast food chain restaurants are attracting more fast food chain restaurants. I hope this has taught us that any decision, or perhaps indecision, we make for the commercial use of our remaining land are determinative of whether we will attract the businesses we have been longing for decades now and have still yet to see. A grocery store, shopping boutiques, more quality sit-down restaurants. The question today is, will a change in zoning to allow a sports and entertainment subdistrict move us closer to that goal than the current local retail? I believe the answer is yes, and I hope the commissioners will agree. Just very, very briefly address the residential.
I'll give you one more minute.
Thank you. Thankfully, the developer has already sought feedback, and after listening, he removed the backup SF4 residential development from the application. So the remaining zoning change request is for a pocket neighborhood, a deed restricted area for 55 plus active adults. I hope our town's governing bodies will always very carefully scrutinize any request to allow density higher than what's in our town's comprehensive plan, as it will have significant presidential value when it comes time to consider a future application for the sale and development of the 600-acre Lupton tract that sits just up the road. That said, one of the town's goals in its comprehensive plan is for a senior independent living development, a place tailored for seniors who want to move close to their children and grandchildren living in the town, and also our current residents who want to stay active in Sunnyvale but downsize. a pocket neighborhood, if granted within specific limits to dictate the potential number of rooftops, would be ideal to satisfy this goal for our town. And this location makes a lot of sense if the sports and entertainment subdistrict does attract more local retail business like restaurants, shops, grocery stores within walking distance. Having this goal satisfied would be a win for our town, and it would be relevant when considering any future requests for very large, high-density developments that might be brought under a mere guise of satisfying this goal. The last reason this application is so significant is personal to me as a hometown kid. It involves the intersection of Beltline and Town East Road. Someone else has spoken about this. One of two main entrances to our town. The one with a median meticulously and religiously maintained by our beloved Sunnyvale Garden Club. Right now, one side of that intersection is a historic converted feed store turned family-owned restaurant. The other side is open pasture and woods, a glimpse of the rural character our town once enjoyed. As we continue to experience growth, this spot is still the first impression for many who enter our town. So to me, it bears a virtual packaging stamp if and when handed off. Fragile, please handle with care. I am happy to see, if approved, it will be in the hands of Derek Salser, a town resident who brought us Sunnyvale Park Square and other wonderful developments. Perhaps Joe Gear, who is also a Sunnyvale resident, and the gentleman behind the unique concepts of HG Supply and Standard Services, with such goodwill and track record, who has chosen our community to realize a personal vision and dream. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. That's okay. We won't hold your comments about Jiffy Lube against you either. Teresa Bruiser? We have to dock you some time, obviously.
So I'm Teresa Bruiser with 205 Robin Ridge, and I'm here because I'm not opposed. I think there's a lot of questions still, and there's a lot that needs to be answered, and I'm sure there's a lot that needs to be worked through. But one of the things I'd like to say is that if we're going to have anybody develop that corridor, I think that having a hometown developer is one of the things that we'd like to have participating to do that. So I think that's a plus. I do know the character of Derek Salser, and I know that he will do a good job. I think he's already proven himself. So with that, I want to go into the age restricted 55 plus, all in that category for the homes. There is a high demand for that. So when I'm out every day working in Sunnyvale, I have people come to me that say, you know, I'd like my parents to move here, or can I bring my parents by to the open house because they're wanting to look for a home. Now, what's the cost of that house? Oh, I don't think they can do that. Or an acre, they don't want to do an acre. So we do have a strong group of people who want to have their families together, that they want to be able to bring their parents here, or not only that, but they want to downsize. So for instance, my son will be a senior next year. I very easily could downsize. Now I've chosen not to do that. I've chosen to stay where I'm at on my 1 acre, and I probably will not use it all. But there's really no other place to go because I want to stay here, because I live here and I love being here. I love the people, and they're all passionate. And I understand that the different people, where they live and their location to this facility, I think that has a lot to do with the noise, the time frame that will have to be taken into consideration. But I also do believe that if this is done well, it can partner with our school, and our school needs some relief. And I know that. They can't do it all, and we don't have what it takes to be able to provide for the students and for the families that are here. I know that, you know, the grocery store thing is always being asked. So I have a list of where everybody goes when they move to Sunnyvale, where they go to shop, they go to the grocery store, what restaurants are good, and where they go to. So it would be nice not to send them outside of Sunnyvale, but to start allowing them to be in Sunnyvale. But I think we can do that well. And I think that if we come together and we work together and we realize that we're 15 miles from Dallas, we're going to change. We can keep open spaces, we can keep trees, and we can keep green spaces. But I think that we all have to work together and realize that growth is going to happen. And I think Derek Salser is the person to do it. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Carmen Elder? will speak.
Carmen Elder was AO. I live at 201 Tanner Creek Circle. And thank you for letting me speak. The two ladies before me pretty much summed up what I wanted to say. I just want to briefly touch on a couple of things. If you don't know, I was formerly principal at the middle school here in Sunnyvale, and I will tell you that that school district runs from morning to just about midnight on a consistent basis with ball fields, lights on. I had team after team after team in my building after school, in the gym. I had doors left unlocked at the end of the night, all kinds of things, because we had so many people in and out of the facilities for youth sports. We have nowhere for our kiddos to practice, to play. We are going outside of this town and giving our tax dollars to lots and lots of other places, and we're going really far away to play tournaments when we could be playing here. One thing I wanted to hit on is, have you heard the term live local? It's hard to live local here. It's really hard to live in a town where you don't have a lot of things to do with your family and you don't have a lot of things to do with your kids. There's not a lot of places to go and keep those tax dollars here. And I do think this would be great for our town because it's a destination right here that you can go and enjoy with your family, enjoy with your parents, enjoy, cousins and friends. And we're keeping that money here. And my background in education in Sunnyvale, we always tried to get businesses to come because we needed to expand and diversify our tax base here. And you can't do that with rooftops. You cannot do what we need to do in this town, in this community, with such an explosion in growth and only support this town with rooftop tax dollars. I live on Barnes Bridge, or right off of Barnes Bridge. And for a year and a half now, Barnes Bridge has been closed because we are unable to fix the bridge. This is a main road in our town, and we cannot use it. It goes from one end of town to the other end of town, and we cannot use that road that lots and lots of people live on because we can't fix that bridge. Why can we not fix the bridge? We only have so much money here, so we're going to put money into fixing a little bridge, or we can do the other things that we need. You've got to make a decision at some point with what you have, going for you. So I just think that we've got a very viable corner in an area where we have the infrastructure to support traffic. They're not asking to do this development in the middle of town, off of Town East, like our previous developer was. We are actually being asked to put something on a corner that can support traffic. It's how much? Okay. It's on Beltline, which is 6 lanes of traffic in between 2 major highways. And I'll be honest with you, we would love to keep it small and we would love to be able to do everything we need to do here in this town with what we have, but we just can't do it. And this is a state-of-the-art complex. This is not ball fields. I keep hearing ball fields. This is not ball fields. This is a mega center for sports and entertainment done by professionals that have proven track records to have great taste and do things in high quality. Last but not least, I do want to say, we're going to have developer after developer after developer come through here, and are we going to keep saying no, no, no? At some point, we're going to end up saying yes because we're going to be desperate and we're going to need the money. I believe if we're going to say yes to a developer, that we need to say yes to a developer that is from our town, that loves our town, believes in our town, and makes good decisions for our town. And that is Derek Salser. We have seen what he's done time and time again. He has the highest quality. He has very high standards, great taste, and he's a stand-up person all the way around, from dad to a local community member. He gives back 110%. And I just feel like if we are at some point going to have to choose a developer to develop that property, we should go with somebody that we know and trust. And I 100% trust him. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So the next person's James Abraham at 312 Riverdale Road. They do not wish to speak, but they're in opposition of the agenda item. James, you don't want to speak, I assume. Okay. And then Jason Varghese. They also do not want to speak, but they're in opposition of the agenda item, and they're at 331 Red Hill Road. Okay, if there's no one else that wants to speak, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. So commission, I guess best put is we sort of make a recommendation tonight to forward on to the city council and then go from there. I think there's a few things that we probably should flesh out that have come up several times. And Derek, do you want to come up with Eric and just sort of, I think that'd be the most efficient way. I think just if you guys don't mind not socially distancing for like a few minutes. Because I think there's, if we just can get through these things, these commonalities and sort of, so Eric, I guess you're first, the sports complex, I guess people have brought up noise and light issues. And it sounds like you've taken some mitigation factors as far as directionality of both those things. Can you flesh out this decibel level and how it applies to the surrounding town?
For sure. So first off, this is not a live music venue. Live music, yes, we'll have live music. We will have it during sporting events. Yes, we might do it during slow times, but the idea of multi-sport functionality is that we are a sports complex that does really get great food and beverage as well. Okay, so live music from a decibel standpoint, we'll have the ability to close off the doors and it become an indoor facility. It's not on the back porch. It's not completely outside. So it's walled in on 3 different sides with bay windows that come up. So during the day, we'd be able to accommodate anybody that's outside, but in the evening times we'd be able to accommodate so that way the decibel levels don't reach the neighborhoods in that manner. So very cognizant of that.
And Derek, I assume the PD will have some sort of, like all these things seem to have in it, some sort of regulation on such things as noise and light.
I think is it the UDO or the town ordinances, Charles, already speak to that?
Right. So there is a noise ordinance. It's outside of the UDO, but there is a noise ordinance that we would use if there were noise complaints that has a maximum decibel
So
level.
the PD would not supersede any noise.
It would not.
Okay, great.
One other thing that Eric didn't mention is it's not advantageous for him to create a lot of noise because you have to hear what's going on in these fields.
Yeah, so the speakers on the fields, yes, think of it more as ambient music. And so we want to be able to announce things that are happening on the ball field. Well, the ball fields are only going to be about 60 foot away from each other. So the speakers that are for one particular group of parents and stands cannot really overflow into the other one. So there's a lot of directional speaking that we will do. Obviously, the loudest part of what I want to address really is kind of the food and beverage component. There will be live music, and yes, that will be more enclosed, but the outside at all of the ball fields will be very directional speakers and levels. So it's focused to keep the sound on those particular fields.
Okay. Now, several times and through several letters, crime and variations of crime have been brought up, and I just, it seemed like I don't know a better expert to see is like, so what's your thoughts or what is your experience with a multi-sports complex and crime? I mean, in my mind, I don't necessarily see a correlation, but again, I don't build any sports complexes. So I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. So traditionally, each one of the fourplexes will be fenced off with gates. So at nighttime, they're closed off after games. You'll always have an ambulance on site for any type of sporting events, which normally follows with some type of security. If we do a live music concert or anything like that at night, it'll always come with security. These are youth events. Traditionally, it's parents and children. So from a security standpoint, I've never experienced that. I have a lot of late night experience, and after 11 o'clock is traditionally when, crime, so to speak, happens, where there's either break-ins in cars or anything like that. Our goal is to be done by then, and so, this is a daytime, this is a morning and daytime, early evening. Yes, on Saturdays and Sundays, we'll have some tournaments that will go later, but those are traditionally the latter part, well-lit parking lots. And if I can touch on lighting that goes along with it. So, this is going to be state-of-the-art lighting. And so they have LED lights that you literally step 5 foot off of the field and there's no overflow into other spaces or neighborhoods and things like that.
Do you plan on doing 24-hour security? What's your?
So I'll have surveillance. Yes, we'll do cameras. I won't have a person patrolling 24 hours a day, but everything will be recorded. Just for not only the protection of the people, but for protection of the property as well. So,
the next thing, and this is no particular order, and I don't want to drill on traffic because I know traffic studies need to be done, and I feel like that's something that certainly is down the road. But in your mind, do you foresee an issue with traffic in the given location between 30 and 80, and on the given location Beltline Road? Do you foresee a traffic issue?
I think there's multiple entrances and exits out of the facility, and it's a very deep parking lot. So it's not somebody just trying to park, holding up the line off the Beltline or off the Town East, trying to park in a parking location that is directly there. The goal is to bring them deep into the facility or deep into the complex, and they'll be able to park all the way at the other end. This is a 36-acre development. It is very, very deep. So
I do think that the Forney Community Park with the 4 fields they have there does create a little bit of a traffic issue at some points when you're. Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
I think some of that though is the road that you have to get off onto, which is 4 lanes and already filled with traffic. And I had one question relating to the traffic. Do you anticipate having a lot of people coming and going at the exact same time? Because I would think with these games, it wouldn't be necessary. I mean, it might be one field, maybe a couple fields, but we're not talking about the entire complex entering and exiting at one time, I would think.
Yeah, so they traditionally, especially from a baseball standpoint, these are 1.5-hour games. Sometimes they run long, sometimes they end early. The initial first game of the day, yes, kind of everybody enters. It's traditionally 7 in the morning, 7:30 in the morning. And then as people come and go, it's just like any other hospitality. Some people stay longer, some people leave right after the game. So there's a very commonality of common ebbs and flow of the business. It's not something where people come and, there's one massive event like a Mavericks game or a Rangers game where everybody's trying to come at the same time. We'll normally do 2 games back to back. So you come, you play your 2 games, you can choose to come early or you can stay late or you can leave. So traditionally in a youth setting, there's just not that issue. And then when you go to the hardwoods, those games are only 1 hour long anyway. So it naturally creates more ebbs and flows to ease up from the traffic analytics.
Besides your slide on the benefits to the city, you listed them out, you kind of delineate some points. Do you have anything else you want to add to again, the direct benefit to the people of Sunnyvale? How is this going to benefit? How does this help us?
Yeah. So the biggest
not
part,
that we should be self-centered, but
No, exactly. So
I
I view every relationship that I have as a partnership. It's not really I'm trying to come in and make money. That's not the overall goal. Yes, it is a private business. Yes, I'll need to make money and pay investors back and whatnot. But the goal is to create an experience, a hospitality-driven experience in a sports setting. So I think the city of Sunnyvale is primed for it. Some of them spoke very clearly. You drive to Mesquite, you drive to Garland, you drive to Dallas. I want to create an experience that is unique to Sunnyvale, and I think that it'll lend to literally every demographic of all ages, and we'll be able to accommodate a ton of different things that you just don't have to leave your own city to be able to do. So I think that the partnership word is really important. I know that you probably had some hotshot developers that come in here, and that's just not who I am. The reason we're so successful with HG and Standard Service, these are neighborhood kind of bar and grill, old school Chili's feel, and so if we're not involving the community in everything that we do, then they fail. But I think that's why those concepts that we created were so successful, because it does involve the community.
You can tell by tonight, if this is an example, we're very protective of our town. So
1000%. I wouldn't want you to be any other way.
I imagine there would be, if we opened it up, there'd be like 1,000 more people here. But the last thing, and I promise to be quiet, I have a few questions for Derek, but one more thing is, I'm sorry, Derek, is the effect on property value. Maybe this is a better question for like the realtor people, but do you have any ideas or any thoughts on the effect of a sports field on property value, specifically sports fields?
I can't speak.
Okay, that's okay.
intelligently
That's
on
okay.
that, no.
Okay. Derek, do you want to address the property value?
I'm not expert in that other than blank land.
Does anyone want to address their property value?
But I was going to answer, piggyback on what he said a minute ago, and that is, I will be consulting him on the design and how the look and feel of this is to make sure it fits the culture of the town.
Well, just two questions for you, and then I'm done, I promise. And it has to do with the pocket neighborhood, and I kind of want to get down to, like, I mean, I'm not a person that minces words, and so specifically, six housing units per acre is what the slide said, is what I read. And that simple math, I'm a smart guy, that's about 120 houses, roughly.
That is, yes, simple math. That's right.
And they're 40 feet tall.
40 feet tall. No, they're one story.
No, but what was the height requirement? Wasn't there a height, 40 foot?
No, these are one story houses we're talking about.
Yeah, this is specifically the pocket.
I know.
neighborhood.
So yeah, the proposed standards in all of our single family districts, we have a 40-foot height limit.
Yeah,
So we were just copying that.
I see what you said.
I think he means because that was just a general, that's a Sunnyvale SF.
Yeah, no house is one story home is gonna be, my 2-story home's not even 40 feet tall.
I know. The concern I have is that you're basically mirroring multifamily, the same density as multifamily. You're just calling it something else.
Well, these are single family detached. It's no duplexes, fourplexes, or even multi-story. It's 1-story homes. And I put 6 in there. We're willing to do 5 because the developers I've talked to, they don't want more than 5.
No,
That's another question I have. Everyone that spoke on your behalf says you're the one developing the property, but are you developing specifically? Salzer doing the pocket neighborhood.
I'm putting this PD framework together so that the developers who come in know what to follow to do the quality that we want. And I'm not ruling out that I would not develop the pocket neighborhood if that's your question. But right now, I'm not signed up to do that.
Seltzer Enterprises.
Right. I mean, maybe, but I think 5, and how the pocket neighborhood is backup plan.
Sure.
If Eric goes away.
That's a backup plan. Why is it required right now?
Because we have to have a backup plan. Unless he says 100% today, if it's 99.9, there's still that 0.1 that I have partners that we have to have a way to develop the back of the property. So that was the backup plan, was to have a maximum of 20 acres if the sports complex goes away. And then the other side of the property, if they do build, then the other side of the property, we're willing to do 10 acres. Well, that's not in anything that's written down. 10 acres at 5 units per acre, same everything else, but we're willing to reduce that density if they build.
But the town comprehensive plan specifically lays out a senior community should be placed on 50 to 75 acres at quarter-acre lots. That was the town comprehensive plan.
I don't think you want that on that corner.
That's what I'm saying. Why is it being proposed?
This is just a smaller dip your toe in the senior living water in a nice upscale way that fits the town's culture. That's the way I look at it.
Let's just talk about
Not a comprehensive
planning
plan
and
answer.
zoning. We're trying to plan appropriately for this tract of land that has not been developed in 20 years. And when you look at the town comprehensive plan that was laid out by the people who came before us and the residents of this town, including yourself, they talk about the Beltline corridor. And the language that's kind of laid out there, it can go either way. But most people here would interpret it that they should see development happen and then decide what to do with those back acre tracts before preemptively zoning it something you can't change. Now you're creating a planning nightmare. I'm sorry, but I talked to several people who would never want to live next to a sports complex. You're talking right now, if you take out that pocket neighborhood, if you just take out the pocket neighborhood, you're then providing an 863-foot buffer from your ball field to the neighbors on Town East Drive. You've already have problems with the noise from Kearney's. Now you're talking about a baseball field. It's like thousands of people next to residential homes. I'm just trying to understand how, from a planning perspective, where the complaints that would be coming in, having to field those for the town. I'm just trying to understand why you need the pocket neighborhood district required right now, has to be done now, where you can't see how your developing comes down and then you come back later, at a later date.
We can speak to the noise, right? The noise is not going to travel in the fields beyond the PA that's for the fans. If that's what
I'm talking about. You're gonna put 120 houses next to a ball field, not a ball field, an industrial sports complex. And you're doing it preemptively. You're doing it all at one time where they can all coexist without knowing, because there's nothing there already to see if they will even be cohabitable. That's what I'm trying to understand why, if you look at the belt, Charles, in the Beltline corridor, that paragraph you sent out, it's specifically that towards the end of that statement that the comprehensive plan lays out. It says the town should work with developers to figure out what to do with these rear tracts of land. But it also says as development progresses, there's no development there.
I believe this is what will help develop by knowing that that's the use that we planned in the future.
But we should see and I would interpret it 100% differently than you. I would say, if this is always local retail that already has approved 78 uses, you said some earlier, 78 uses. And then you have the general business, which would, I guess, did that get taken out?
We don't have general
Okay,
business.
so you did 78 plus 2. So that would give you 80 uses. And how are we to know what those 80 uses will be and how they will affect residential, especially senior housing residential, just by doing it in advance without seeing what's there, then saying what'll happen. But I've heard multiple times, well, let the market decide. Let the market decide. We're trying to get tax revenue. We already know what the market will decide right off the bat. Build tiny houses. That's what the market's calling for. Look at the price of lumber. I'm sure you'll have no shortage of developers wanting to put in homes right there. And then ball fields come. I'm just saying, I want to understand why this, what seems like a great opportunity for the town from a sports complex, is having to be tied to these pocket neighborhoods and our pocket district neighborhood. And the town already has what you could classify as pocket neighborhood. I live on one. Could be considered a pocket neighborhood. I live in Stony Creek. The street goes to nowhere. It dead ends. It's on 50 acres. Still part of Stony Creek, but it's one considered pocket neighborhood. There's another one right next to it. The developer did, I believe it was 58 acres. They put, I want to say 48 houses on it. There's another one in Stony Creek right off of Town East. It's a gated community that would be considered pocket neighborhoods. Those lots are selling for $225,000. So we already have kind of a precedent of pocket neighborhoods within planned developments. And this one is just considerably less.
It's not age protected, right? 55.
That's the difference.
I think that's the main difference.
I think also is that the properties, the house is talking about, like, each only like $450,000.
These are expensive.
It's not like it's gonna put it, it's not like it's.
But it's hypothetical.
No, it's
It's
not. It's not
going to be part of
hypothetical.
the PUD. That's what is being discussed, is that it's not going to just be, maybe some houses, whatever they decide to put in.
The density
It's
of.
going to be dictated by the PD. There are going to be restrictions on it.
And even the
And
finishes,
who's gonna
like
be able
someone
to-
mentioned
And
earlier.
that's going to be decided on.
The PD guys, the finishes.
Nobody can just come along and say, oh, we're going to put a bunch of houses here that
Right.
they have in Stony Creek.
It's-
That's
not how it works.
I understand that, but when you set a precedent for a pocket neighborhood, the town UDO, I believe, also says that that could be done on, I think it's 15 acre, is it 10 acres? There's some language in there that,
About using when you use PD.
yes, but if you set a PD for a pocket neighborhood, where does it stop? At what size? You go all the way down to 10 acres and then someone comes in at the corner of Tripp and Town East.
PDs are each decided on their own. I mean,
Correct,
there's not-
but
right,
is
there's
it a
not
legal precedent
No.
for deciding the
Ask our
size
town
and what's okay?
Ask our town attorney.
We need to
right.
change
Yeah,
some verbiage.
there's absolutely no legal precedent. The town council is the policymaker that would decide whether additional senior housing is appropriate and in what location.
And I feel like sometimes we throw on this term precedent. I don't think that's, I think that's, we misuse that
That
term.
was
I
a
think it's-
Josh Sandler term.
Yeah, I think I think we misuse
He
that term.
started
Like,
it.
like
Correct.
we are individuals, the city council's individuals, and the developers are individuals. And I think we don't create anything besides given that this is really for the people that sit out there to speak to us and give us the thoughts and like flush it all out. Because guess what? The city council is going to be flushing it out in another month. So I think it's just, this is not precedence of anything besides people that care about Sunnyvale getting together saying, okay, Mr. Shelter, what do you got for us? You know, what's your idea? But I don't think it's more than that. I don't think it's not more than that. We're not doing anything. I mean, I'd like to say we're doing something special, but we're not, nothing special.
And it can't really set precedent because each plot of land is different. Its location is different, its size is different, the needs around it are different. So there is no precedent because everything is different.
But it's a specific zoning district that will be created and added to the town.
Correct. I mean,
So
We're
let
affecting
me
the zoning.
just be clear. There is no legal precedent established by either approving or denying a planned development district. No legal precedent.
As in, it doesn't go beyond this particular property.
That's correct.
I think that's what you were getting at, wasn't it?
Right. Because if you have the way the original email we got was we would be creating new planned zoning districts.
No, you're creating a specific district for this property. It would not apply to any other property in the town.
That's what I understand too.
This acreage request is for a planned development allowing for retail, sports, entertainment, and residential usage. If the planned development is approved, before they can get a permit or before they can go the sports and entertainment, pocket neighborhood, business, Jiffy Lube, whatever. Well, it's granted by right for Jiffy Lube, right? So they wouldn't have to.
Correct.
Let's say a sports venue or a pocket neighborhood. That has to come through planning and zoning and get approved. Proposal, okay, we want to put 40 houses in 1 acre. No, we don't want to do that. We want to dictate the spacing and density of this pocket neighborhood, right?
Correct. There are extra review steps that would be put in place because this is a planned development district. Other straight zoning wouldn't require that. They could plat and do whatever they wanted to do. But because it would be a planned development district, they'd have to have, is it both a development plan and a site plan? Or just a site plan?
So they'd have to come back in for development plan approval, which is landscape plan, building elevations, site plan, everything. And it's a check to make sure they comply with all the requirements of the PD and then the other UDO requirements that are being carried forward in the PD. But it's still an opportunity for us to review and make sure they are meeting all those requirements.
All right, approving this PD does not open the gate for any pocket neighborhood, how many they can build, anything. All comes through review, just as any other request for residential.
You're correct. You're
Okay.
correct.
I guess my last thing is what I'm trying to understand is why the PD couldn't incorporate just the sports complex and leave out the side with a pocket neighborhood. Is that not, because you have this one tract of land. You could essentially carve out the PD for your sports entertainment complex and retail while not incorporating that is what I'm asking.
I guess it's just a business decision. It's just not prudent to do that.
Correct. But you could always come back and request a specific PD for your 20 acres at a later date for your pocket neighborhood.
Good, but I'd rather just do it all while we're. That's exactly, yeah, you said it
Backup
better.
plan. You have to have a backup plan.
No, I agree with you. I agree that that could do that. But the section where you're talking about putting a pocket neighborhood, where did it come where you wanted to build a Lowe's or a Home Depot? What was that extra two uses come in for? Those sit back 1,000 feet. Whereas I'm just trying to understand you giving yourself other options.
You said that wouldn't happen.
We want a home
Rental.
improvement center.
That's a I mean, that's one of those backup plans, just like the.
Correct. It's casting a very wide net over every possible thing.
It seems like there's a desire to have the 55 plus community in Sunnyvale. I mean, that's something that has clearly, it is something that the townspeople want. And he's trying to provide that.
Correct, but the planning side of it, is it the right place to put next to?
That's what
the
he figures
sports
out.
complex?
That's what he'll figure out. We
let's
don't have
let-
to
let's
worry
let-
about
will
it.
tell
We
us.
just give them an opportunity to try to figure
Let's
it
let,
out.
let's let Mr. Seltzer and Eric sit down and
Hang on. At this point, if you are debating among the commission,
Yeah,
I
we-
would think the applicant could
Oh, is
sit
that-
down unless there are additional
does anyone have any
questions.
questions for Mr. Seltzer or Mr. Warner, right? Okay, thank you, sir. So again, I think I mean, just to give you a little bit idea of my insight and kind of being on this P&Z for a while is that everyone that comes here about this tract sort of talks about, and I think it was either Ms. Bruiser or said before that just no one, or someone before said just no one wants to build retail past that first few hundred feet, and you're sort of stuck buying this whole property, and only there's like this gold mine track, and everything else is like, well, we're stuck with that bit. And now we at least have an opportunity. And again, I'm not saying we should take the opportunity. I'm saying we at least have an opportunity to have someone that has a thought beyond that first 300 feet. The second thing I think about is I never like to think we're threatened by it's either accept this offer or we may not get a better offer down the street. I don't think we should think like that. I think we should accept this today as a group of people that care about Sunnyvale and care what the residents say, and evaluate this proposal based upon that. Because yes, things are changing, but no one can predict the future. No one can predict. We're not going to turn ourselves into Forney or Mesquite or whatever city we're afraid to turn ourselves into. We have the ability to make change today if we want to. I don't think we should be afraid of change, nor do I think we should be opposed to like saying no today. So that's just my thoughts. But we do at some point we do need to come together to make a motion for a recommendation to City Council. Again, this is all going to be fleshed out again at City Council. And I'm not sure they do a better job, but they certainly do a different job than us. But I like to think this meeting's about us listening to the people that came tonight, getting their thoughts laid out by the people. I mean, it's important. And then because we're not elected officials, right? Your salary is zero. But we volunteered, so our time is, and the people out here volunteered to come sit here too with us. So in respect of that, I think we should give our best recommendation to City Council and give them our best thoughts as individuals that came together tonight. That's all we can do. And then next election, you vote different.
Mr. Chairman, my comments on this, and like you, I've seen many different plans come and go here, and they failed for whatever reason. This, however, is a comprehensive plan that I think has got the whole enchilada in it. There's been a lot of planning and development. It takes care of the whole 60 acres there. I'm impressed with the competence of the staff that would run sports complex. I think that, yes, it will create jobs, but more so than that, it's going to create a good solid tax base, property tax base plus the sales tax. Very, very good sales tax on this. And that is something that Sunnyvale really needs to. And I'm certainly impressed with the developer and what he's done in the past and for the town and what he's developed. I think that is a big plus for us. And, if something goes awry, I think we'll always have his ear.
Plus, we know where he lives.
Yeah, knows where he lives for sure. But anyway, I'm certainly in favor of this project, and I can understand the feelings of those who are against it. When I bought my property over off of Stone Canyon, nobody told me in the wintertime that I was going to hear the heavy traffic on Highway 80 whenever the wind wasn't blowing from the north. Same, they didn't tell me I was going to hear the train coming from the south when the wind's blowing from the south, or that I was going to hear the Dust Bowl of Friday and Saturday nights. But you know what? They didn't tell me about the coyotes and all the other nice wildlife and everything that I enjoy over there too. So I've learned to live with it, and I've learned to love it. So, like I say, I'm very much in favor of this.
And to tag on that, we do have town staff with, Brenda and Charles. They know this stuff pretty well. And I think at this point, they could probably shepherd it through a good PD and make it work. I don't know. I just think sometimes it's everything's the stars. I'm not that I'm the stars sort of align, and we're given a chance to make an interesting change here. So if we desire to do that.
I have to say that I'm very excited about this. One, I think Mr. Salzer has proven himself to be a good neighbor, literally, and as a developer. He definitely wants to do what's best for Sunnyvale, but he's also a businessman, so he has to look at that aspect too. As a parent of kids who play sports, I drive to Plano, Rockwall, Forney, Addison. I would love to not have to drive so far all the time for my kids' sports. I also love the idea of maybe coming and watching some sports. This Miracle Field thing, I think, is a phenomenal opportunity. Additionally, I'm assuming it sounds like a sports bar may be involved. So watching some sports maybe on the TV, I don't know if that's part of it, but just a place to go that's in town where our kids can go, where we can watch sports, be a part of it. I really, and the 55 plus thing, I think that's great. I would love for my mom to move into one of the houses, honestly. And it is a concern that for her, the size of the lots out here, she doesn't need a house that big. So where do we end up looking? Well, we look at Mesquite, or we're looking at Rowlett or Garland. Well, I would much rather have her in Sunnyvale. So I just see this as a great opportunity for the town. I know there are concerns, but we have a developer that's going to listen to those concerns, that's going to take those into account, and we still have lots of opportunity along the way to make adjustments to what's being proposed. This is not like the final deal tonight and we're deciding all things. This is just the start of it, first phase, and I think it's a great opportunity for this town, and one we do not want to miss out on and watch get built in Heath or some other place around here.
That's
So
a
we
good
have to
point.
go visit it.
Mr. Salzer did change. It was in like a month. He changed and took out. Talked to some citizens and took out a very sticky point, and he was obviously able to do that and quicker than most people could do. Taxes, of course, or something. So that says something for the developer that he's willing to change that like that. It's important, at least in my mind, of seeing everyone come before us. There's not a lot of people that are willing to just do that just by talking to some citizens. So.
It's not this particular back part of the lot that these proposed years ago. Quite a few more houses closer together. That we can go. That back part of that lot is unusable for retail and storage units. Storage units back there. I don't want those Yeah, I don't want duplexes. Apartments in there, but well thought out senior living. And again, all these sports entertainment pocket neighborhood requests. I'll reiterate too, the idea of done such a good attention. Outline is heavily traffic road. All retail up and down that line.
Y'all could remember to use your mics when you're talking.
Mine's not on. Is it on?
You said he said he
Sorry.
just despises,
Sorry
despises.
about that.
He's having a little background about his despising of Jiffy Lube. Any other thoughts, concerns, questions? I think we heard a lot of people talk, and I think this, we kind of have to make a recommendation at some point to the city council.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the 1701Z Gateway Park and the zoning changes from local retail to planned development.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Ms. Burton. Oh, and for the record, she showed up maybe 2 minutes late or something. It's probably the traffic out front. Charles keeps a tight attendance policy. He does. If you're not here for the full 50, he docks your pay and it's terrible. Yeah.
So I do just want to clarify that the motion is to approve it as presented tonight without the SF4.
Oh, yeah.
And that, I think that's what you meant. I just wanted to make sure that
Putting words
we
in your mouth.
capture that.
It sounds like he wants as presented tonight.
Thank you.
And then Ms. Burton seconded. All in favor? And opposed? Okay, so we have I think it was 6-1 with Mr. Mays being opposed.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I also want to thank everyone for coming out here. I think it's important, and I appreciate your thoughts and taking the time. I know it's not easy to sit here on I'm not sure what night this is, but Wednesday night. But thank you all. So for the commission, we'll take a motion for adjournment.
I'm gonna make a motion for adjournment.
Great. Have a second?
Second.
Is anyone opposed to adjourning? Great. That's unanimous as well. Thank you, everyone.